And we're going to be talking about the digital world. We're talking about animation. We're going to talk about apps. We're going to be talking about business and entrepreneurship and so much more with Bereket. For those who, just tuning in, tell us about you, introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah, that's a difficult thing to do.
Tell us about a little background of
you. So, my name is Bereket Tafesse. I am currently the co-founder and CEO of Gabea Media, or G Media Studios.
Okay.
Also the co-founder and interim CEO of Lomi.
Lomi.
But yeah, Lomi is a dating app.
A dating app. A dating app, ladies and gents.
Launched yesterday.
Wow.
For the New Year's.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So for those of you looking for, having plans of a new special someone in your life for the New Year's.
Yeah. I'm getting married, ladies and gents, in 2014.
Yeah. So,
My mom is listening, I'm sure.
Yeah, we had so much support from parents. It's interesting, when we told them it's called Lomi. And they're like, oh, I know how that works.
Oh, that's actually a very nice name to it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, so, but a lot could be said, and then I know you're doing a lot under G Media as well. You do a lot of animations, you've done apps, the list goes on so many different things. And we're going to talk about that as well, but just give us a brief background about your education and your work experience and so forth.
Yep. I graduated from Addis Ababa University as a civil engineer.
What?
Yeah.
Me too!
Oh my god. Yeah, the funny thing about D and me is we also at some point I think worked in the same radio station.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we were the same age and we're doing different business as well.
Yeah.
Different.
I know.
But go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I know. So I used to be a civil engineering campus. Same story as everybody. To give you a bit of a background, I learned in Asai, around Bole, New York.
Okay.
For those of you who know.
Oh, yeah.
Asai Public School, New York Cafe.
Yeah, the big building.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. As a kid, I was pretty much into a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly everything, So, growing up, I had a lot of, dreams and a lot of things that I wanted to do, a lot of ideas that used to come into my mind. It took me some time to discover what I needed to do because of that, because I was so interested in. So many people say so many different things about me as well, and know so many different sides about me that it was so hard to choose something. So
that's a very hard thing. We're going to come back to that though.
Yeah, definitely. It was very tough. But then, finally, I moved into, Addis Ababa University. I wanted to mainly go to architecture first. I thought I was going to be an architect because I used to really do that a lot.
Sketch and stuff.
Yeah. But then, I in matric, I had like 3 points off from being able to go into architecture school, and I had to go to just engineering school. So I thought that was, a bummer. I was really depressed about that. But then it became the best happening of my life. I am so grateful that I never ended up being an architect now. So overall,
everything happens for a reason.
It does. Yeah, that's definitely one of those things. It definitely did happen for a reason. I was like, 3 points, and I was like, wow, thank God, it's just 3 points,
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, on campus, I had a lot of ideas. Immediately, I knew civil engineering was not for me. Like, second year, I was like, okay, this is not my thing. So I started, going into what I really liked. One of the things that I really loved was I used to love programming a lot. And it came to me very naturally all the time. So I got into it. Everybody at campus...
Second year.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I just did it by myself.
Okay.
So I go to civil engineering school, yada, cut classes, all of that.
Okay.
Terrible student, I won't hide it. But I did just enough to pass every year. But I spent all of my time on programming, learning programming, and, getting hired to do assignments.
Wow.
Programming assignments and all of that stuff.
That's really amazing. You learned it online?
Yeah, I learned it online. I really loved it because it challenged 2 things about me that I loved. I'm not necessarily just a creative guy or just sequential or like technical type of guy. I'm kind of both. I love the challenge of coding or sequencing or coming up with solutions for problems and engineering and all of that stuff. But at the same time, I love being creative. And programming is one of those fields where you get to do both. You get to be creative, super creative, like in the colors, whatever, and you get to build systems as well. So
it's like a different way of construction.
Exactly. But like it demanded so much problem solving that your brain had to be active all the time. I know programmers know what I'm talking about, especially when it comes to building custom things, So back then I started a small startup called Ampor with my friends.
Ampor?
Yeah, I still love it. Okay. I still gonna do it.
What was the concept behind Ampor?
Ampor was just me. To be honest, it had everything. Like I wanted to do, Ampor wanted to do animations, Ampor wanted to do programming, Ampor wanted to do engineering, Ampor wanted to do designing, Ampor wanted to do everything that I love, generally. Okay. So I ended up creating that, but I was very young. When you're like 20-something, 22, 23, you're very radical as well, right, in your belief systems. You have a lot to learn and the world to see and stuff like that. So all the things that I knew and all the things that I understood were getting tasted in the market, and it showed that I needed experience. So I had this radical, like, I'm not going to, I'm not going to be employed in some company or whatever. I'm going to, make a startup and be a person of my own type of thing. But I was also economically very in a rough spot in my campus years. I didn't have a lot of support from family and things like that. So cash was also an issue. So I had to figure out, like, what do I do? You can't be broke and an entrepreneur at the same time.
That's very true.
You know what I mean? You got to figure it out. So,
there got to be a way.
Yeah.
You got to figure out a way.
Yeah, so the first gig I actually I did a bunch of gigs, with my talents here and there. But one of the most sustainable gigs that I did was Afro FM when I became a radio host there. So that supported me a little bit, and then I started to do my startup a little bit better now. So then
started off with the radio.
Yeah. But then, again, the lack of experience ended up, causing a bunch of problems. And then I tried another startup, had problems with it as well. Then I realized, okay, the problem is I don't have mentors. Back then, I looked at a lot of Steve Jobs. I'm one of those people who, pick a guy, study everything about him, understand what makes him him, and try to copy some of the traits. How can I apply this on myself to do something better? So Steve Jobs was like my motivation back then because, I read into him way more than I should. But then the problem was that, most of the things that I read about him had nothing to do with the actual situation of what business is like. You get what I mean? But when people write biography or when they tell you about themselves, they don't tell you about the real struggles of, like, what it's like to be a CEO, what it's like to meet a bunch of people every day, what it's like to, having let go of an employee. What does that feel? What it's like to feel these things, they don't tell you that. So, I decided to get hired again. But what I did was I made a decision. I saw these guys that came into Ethiopia and they were doing incredible stuff. One of them is called Hiruya Manuel. He's from the States. He's Ethiopian, but he's from the States, and he came and he's doing a lot of great things, with technology. He's investing in a lot of young people. He's trying to do a bunch of things. And when I read about him, I was like, this guy seems like a brilliant person that I can have,
as a mentor.
At a short distance as a mentor. So I basically, went and said, at that time he had co-founded a company called Gavea, if you guys know about it. It's an IT academy. And I went over there and I said, hey, I wanna work here. And they're like, as what? I was like, name it.
Whatever.
From reception to
you want me to clean up
from
the
reception
place?
to cleaning up, whatever you need, I'm ready to do it.
That's
and they're
amazing.
like, he found me a little bit odd. It's like, who's this guy? You know what I mean? And then he's like, okay, tell me some of the things you could do. And I brought out my computer and I showed him, some of the graphic designs I've done, some of the coding I've done. And at that time, I had done a few video shoots with my friends for fun. I showed him that too, a bunch of things. And he was like, okay, this guy's into so many things. And, you know, I don't know what made him believe in me. One of the most important things is people believing in people. I think it's so crucial. You know, if there are people out there thinking about entrepreneurship or any development, you need people. There's no way you're going to make it without people.
That's very true.
And people that say that they made it without people, I think those people are being ungrateful. I don't think that they, you know, came straight out of the womb.
Out of nowhere.
You know, went hunting and gathering, fed themselves, grew themselves up.
Very true.
You know, I don't think that's the case. So he believed in me. You know, he gave me the opportunity to teach me a lot of things. Most of the things I know about management, entrepreneurship came from him. You know, and he really worked with me like I'm his little brother. So we were very close in that sense. And then immediately saw the potential in me and just invested in me, you know, and gave me the opportunity to create G Media Studios. I had a huge vision, you know, and it's tricky, you know, to believe in someone that much with no proven records, you know, and to give them the opportunity to say, okay, this guy's talking about crazy stuff, you know, like, from the get-go, I'm like, animation, we could do animation, we could do games, we could do that, we could do this. And he's like, okay, you know, and to trust and to believe in me. So, you know, we started it. GBI was a company, like, me and him was just the only people, you know, in an office. And one of the things about, you know, what he taught me and what really instilled in me is, you know, he's a VC, you know, he's an angel investor, you know, not a VC, but an angel investor. He has a lot of experience. He's lived a huge life. You know, you don't expect someone like that to, you know, clean up something when something is like on the floor. You just get a mop and just do it himself and go back, you know. Wow. And I see that and I was like, what? You know, like, I thought, like,
talking about that earlier,
right?
So
it's like, right? It's like you expect someone with a thing to just, but he didn't. You know, he would go out to shoots with me, spend the whole day in a company T-shirt, and this man is like, he's co-founded so many businesses and invested in so many businesses internationally and locally, and he doesn't have the appearance of someone like that. You know, he communicates with people and, you know, like young people. He's very down to earth. And that taught me a lot, you know, taught me discipline. It taught me to get involved. I never look at work like you do it, like let's do it together type of mentality. So, you know, we were able to go so fast because people loved our product, you know, the things. We spent a lot of time pouring our hearts into it, our time into it. People responded. So G Media started to grow, you know, one by one. It was almost crazy. And then, you know, now from 2 people having a small office, we have become a team of 10 people with a bunch of contractors, and we're still hiring and scaling up because in 4 years so much has happened, you know.
Wow. It's been 4 years?
No. It's been almost 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So in 5 years we have done a lot of great things. I'm really grateful for that, and you know, we're looking into what we can do, but you know, we can get into what, you know, what G Media does and some of the things that we're about to do.
It sounds exciting. I mean, I'm excited from the get-go.
Yeah.
When you said Lomi's going, I'm like, yes. This guy has the solution
Lomi's
for all my problems. You think I'm going to let that go? I'm still on the dating app. Ladies and gents, I'm about to change your life. If you're single and you're looking for to mingle, maybe you should hire me for one of your...
I'm already talking about.
Ladies and gents, we're going to get to a musical break and we're going to get to some nice tunes. Let's get to our record. Coming up next, and I know you did animation. I know you do animation. We're going to talk about that as well. But coming up, I want to play you a tune that reminds me of animation.
Okay.
Sounds
good.
I want to play it for you, and then I want to see your reaction. And see how you feel about it. Turn the volume up, ladies and gents. This is 104.7. Your favorite morning show, InSheger Talk Show. I'm your host, Dawi, alongside, of course, I do have Johnny Boy, and I do have Bereket, CEO, a co-founder of G Media, joining us early on this beautiful Monday morning. Let's get to this tune, and we'll be back.
Oh, man, I remember that.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's actually a song that takes you back, doesn't it?
Nostalgia.
I had to play it for a reason, you know what I mean? The man in the studio is into animation, and this is actually one of the songs that... What do you feel when you hear this song? What comes to your mind?
Well, this is my memory of it, right? I was watching the Arlebe show since it came on, and this music started, and he's doing the eskista. And I remember, because I was such a kid at that time, looking at it and just going like, how's that possible? Like, how could you bring like an animated character into, the studio? Like what does this mean? Like, I was so confused. But
is it real? Is it not?
Yeah, that's why it's like ingrained in my brain.
This is me finding out the first time. We had him live on the show.
Yeah,
how did that happen?
Not necessarily live. I'm pretty sure it was pre-recorded show. But still,
at that time, to have
a live action CG. Like CGI, computer generated image, live action into a show. And I think it's one of the most underrated things that people don't really discuss anymore. And I think I don't necessarily remember the person that did it, but I remember his I remember him very clearly and the things that he did.
Yeah.
And he used to do engineering. I remember he did these things that would flip and these ads that, would turn and has a completely different image. Have you ever seen that one? And then would turn and it's a completely different image. So in some ways, I really like that guy because I saw myself in him too. Because he did not just one thing, but like several things. And
also though, again, one thing I've noticed as well, like when I hear this, it takes me really, really back.
Yeah.
But then also takes the animation way back because I feel like the animation, this was an amazing start, especially if they were doing such an incredible job of like even putting a live person, an actual person alongside with an animation. It's just an animated, character. It's just quite an advancement at that time.
Definitely.
And then what happened though? What do you think is your opinion about the animation world in the country? And also like, what do you think, and also get into your own animation world as well, how you got into animation? Because I feel like we went into a series of stagnation. We should have been so advanced by now. We should have had so many kids moving and so forth. True. What do you think happened?
I think, to start with the problem, I think, every industry needs an enabler to kind of open people's eyes, right? Like someone needs to come here and like create that, because there's this statement that there are two types of entrepreneurs, right? There are people who see a problem and go like, I need to fix that. So they're problem-driven people. And there are, also these bit of crazy people who just have crazy imagination. And then they believe in this idea that people don't know what they want until they see it. So they don't even start from a problem. I don't know where they even bring, because if it's not a problem, where did you bring it from, And then they come up with this crazy thing, and all of a sudden that's what people want. That's what people need. In fact, when that thing is not there, it becomes a problem now.
Like the internet.
Yeah, right. It's like,
and Facebook and all that.
Exactly. And then when you don't have it, it becomes a problem. So we need enablers in a society we need those kinds of enablers, not just problem solvers, dude. But we also need enablers.
Imagination.
Yes.
To be
exactly. Exactly. So I think, one of the things that I always tell people is animation, if you're getting into an animation, you need to understand the business model, right? The reason why you need to understand the business model is for you to elevate something, for you to innovate it, for you to keep it going. You need it to feed you too. You need it for it to circulate. You put it out, something comes back in, you put more in, And the business model for animation, if you Google it, like Spider-Man, all of these animation shows, their biggest asset is merchandising, right? Because entertainment industry works on ads, right? Like you put on, a TV station or a movie or a series, you put it on TV, commercials are, seen in between, therefore there's money in there to keep making more TV shows and stuff like that. And movies are even ads now, right? Like you put, a bunch of cars in there, a bunch of things in there, people watch it, and then you give it to a bigger audience or demographic and they pay for it. With animations, the biggest business model isn't necessarily people seeing it or putting ads in there, because kids are not consumers, right? The biggest part of animation is merchandising. So if you notice, y'all have had Spider-Man bags? If not Spider-Man, something, right? Like
True.
when you're in high school or something.
That's true.
You get what I mean? So it's like, that's the market. Kids see something on TV that idolize that character, and now they want everything about that. Just like, what is that? Princess, the ice.
Oh, Frozen.
Frozen. Like, check Frozen's merchandise sale. It's crazy. It's in billions. You get what I mean? So animations work in that way, where they create these amazing stories and everything, and then they sell all of these merchandising, making it, have value. You put games in it, everything. So here we need to understand that as well in Ethiopia, right? If I'm getting into animation, there needs to be these kind of markets for it to sustain me. Otherwise, it will be just a cause. Like, oh, let me do just animation. But then it doesn't do anything, so I can't really do the next project or the next project after that. So I think that's one of the problems, the market.
Yeah.
Giving that kind of place for the market. The second thing that, for example, like G Media, we love animation, right? I love animation. A bunch of people in our team. I was a creative director of Kukulu game.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was so
Tell
much
us
fun.
about that, man. There's so many things to add. I don't want to get you off the topic you're on, but we're gonna get back to that. But go ahead.
So, and when I was working in Kukulu and when we were producing animation, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my god, we're producing animation, and it looks really good. Like for a game, and for everything that it is, it looks. Please download it, check it out for yourself. It won the best entertainment app in Africa back in 2019.
I see. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing.
So we received a few awards for it because it did impact a lot of people because it was about a story of it's interesting. At first it was like, okay, it's a chicken running away from a guy who's about to slaughter on Tafesse. You have every reason to run away. You get what I mean?
By all means.
By all means. If you're the chicken, you need to run away. So the game was pretty straightforward. But then we wanted to elevate it. So we put a lot of story and magic. Because, as Africans, we grew up learning so much about magic. And it's part of our childhood. So why not incorporate these things into it? And then we made it into this whole Star Wars type of universe of chickens having magic and birds having magic and
Wow.
and a bunch of things because we went crazy with it. Why not? Let's go crazy. So that was a fun project, and I saw that and I was like, I think, at that time the team that was working on it had almost zero experience in animation. So essentially they were learning as they go, but they did such a good job. I was like, now there's some talent. Like it might be few, but there's some talent. And the issue is talent with animation. Because, there's no industry, there are no schools. If there are no schools, how do people learn? You get what I mean? There's like, these things are connected. Market, industry, capacity. So we took those team, we sat down together. We just decided to do animation projects. And then, I'll show you guys the clip, of what we done. But we produced, we came up with one show. A show that every Ethiopian is familiar with, The Discovery of Coffee.
Wow.
But do you guys watch Shaun the Sheep? The sheep, the clever sheep.
Shaun
We need
the
to,
Sheep.
yes, we need to show Dean.
Yeah,
Dean's
I'm
missing a lot
like,
of
what are you
things.
guys talking about?
All right, so it's about this clever goat, and it's huge. Clever sheep, and it's huge. So I was like, okay, that's fine, but I know the most clever goat in the world, though, and it was real. Like, this goat existed.
Okay.
You get what I mean? This goat was so curious that it chewed on a berry and now literally the whole entire earth.
And we just had a few of that as well before we even step into the streets and
We're on that right now.
Yeah, we're on that right now. some serious caffeine.
So, I was like, damn, we got this goat, who never received an award or anything for discovering the most important thing you drink when you wake up in the morning. So we decided to create a show based on that goat. But then we asked ourselves, what is that goat like? Like, if it had character and personality, it would be so curious. It would be so restless. It would be so much fun to just...
Energy.
Yeah, to watch that goat discover other things. Let's put it in an imaginary world where this goat, goes into other, like, what if a spaceship comes down? What do you think this code is going to do? I mean, if you look at its portfolio, it discovered coffee, the most important, one of the most highly valued commodity in the world. It's like next to gold or something.
Yeah.
You know, so
and we're monetizing it as well.
Very well, you know, very well.
Further coffee.
So we decided to create a small pilot of what that series would look like. Mm-hmm. We spent about 11, 12 months on it, and it was a lot of investment on our side because, you know, we're a growing startup. You know, we're not in a position where we're making a giant amount of money. We're just about to be, 5 years. So we had to, I had to figure out a system to, take revenue from this side and put it in this side and make it work, like where it doesn't hurt, where it doesn't put pressure on the business. And we finished it. The pilot, we did the concept, and I met with Jan Philip. He's the guy who directed and created the only Ethiopian film on Netflix right now, which is called Running Against the Wind. If you haven't seen it, I advise you to see it. It's
Running Against the Wind.
Yeah, it's about a very courageous runner who goes through so much stuff, and you see him overcome, which is a very Ethiopian story as well. So me and him got together and we were discussing on how to put the show together, and I showed it to him and he was in awe. So he couldn't believe it. And then have you seen Ferdinand? The bull, the sensitive bulls, the Disney show? Or
John Cena?
No, exactly. John Cena show. Ferdinand. It got nominated for a Golden Globe. It's a huge. Wow. Yeah. If you Google it, you'll see it. Yeah. It's one of those big, animation titles. So the creator and producer of that show, also the person who worked in True Romance, actual Hollywood movies, got to see it, and I couldn't expect that kind of reaction. Honestly,
Wow.
I thought they were like, you hear about Hollywood people. And, they're, like, super excited and stuff like that. So I was a bit on the fence. But I couldn't believe it. Like, they went crazy. They're like, oh, my God, this is one of the best things we've seen very recently. And I'm like, you work in Hollywood. This cannot be. It's a fact. Yeah. So, but then I doubted that excitement. There was also another guy called Spencer Green, who's a huge writer. Like, who's written so many episodes for so many shows when he was telling me the titles. And then they just jumped in. They were like, we want this to be produced fully. We're going to take it, and we're going to work with you guys. Wow. And now we're in the process of, looking at pitching to huge studios in LA, of one of the big ones like DreamWorks and those ones. So,
Man, congratulations on the order, man. For the man in the building, man. That's amazing, though. Yeah. That is amazing. That's what hard work, determination, takes. Yeah. This is what it means. Yeah. To actually put your heart into something. Yeah. And in seeing the fruits of it, man. Congratulations. That's amazing, man. Yeah. We're very proud of you, man. That's what's up, man. Yeah. Major shout out to the man in the building, man. That's a huge accomplishment, man.
Even if, when you go into these studios, they have, different criterias and different ways of accepting projects, even if they don't, right? Like, let's say no studio picked it up. The fact that these highly acclaimed, producers spent time, they actually, spent time with us on developing the show. They were there, like, on work days. Like, this is not some,
like a side favor.
It's not a side at all. They're hitting me up every, they're in the States, so their day is my night and everything. And we're like, throughout the whole day, they're communicating with me on this project. And I'm like, you can't be this free. You get what I mean? If you are not taking this project seriously, you can't just be talking to me every single day. That's impossible.
They see the potential.
Yeah, so, in some ways, we felt a little bit, validated that we were doing something a little bit different, that we were doing something a little bit out of the box. So, we're going on that route. We have so many shows that we've planned, so many ideas. Wow. We're trying to work with different partners, even locally here, to develop shows for kids, because it's about time, right? Like, it is about time. It's about time that we don't bring these shows from wherever and dub them. They're, like, culturally irrelevant. They have zero connection to kids. And because there's nobody doing them, we have to dub them and just push them straight. And I think it's about time that we see an Ethiopian, Bilic or Abba Gabrahana or one of these stories come to life, I think it's...
We have such a beautiful history as well, you can make so many amazing heroes, and you can put that in kids' back for crying out loud and make them feel... relatable characters. And
imagine Disney's like reproducing, their old shows because they've finished all of the stories they have in their culture. And I'm sitting here and I was like, bro, you have no idea how many stories that are here. When you travel to Kenya, you hear so many children's stories and you go like, what? And you go to like different countries like Seychelles, Djibouti, and you talk to people and you're like, they tell you so many stories and you're like, these are just Disney characters. These are heroes. These are whatever, superpowers. For example, one thing, I don't know if you guys know David Abraham. He's the creator, the programmer, the actual CEO of Kukulu.
Okay.
One of the most brilliant guys ever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You guys need to talk to him as well.
Oh,
he would have. Yeah, I mean he created Kukulu. He also created Gabeta. Do you guys know Gabeta game?
Yeah,
Gabeta.
I do know Gabeta.
Gabeta. So Gabeta recently also became the #1 game in South Africa on the Apple Store. Like it was featured on the Apple Store in South Africa.
Are you serious?
Gabeta, an Ethiopian game.
Wow,
that has to be
amazing. That's incredible.
That's incredible.
I need to check out that. Well, really?
It's on iOS, it's on Android, and even the way they wrote Gabeta, just so that, people read Gabeta, right? Right? Because ta is an Amharic word.
Yeah.
So this dude put an asterisk right there. So the title is, Gabeta. Right. Put an asterisk on the T. Imagine what that's like. Try it, ta or however you pronounce it, but it's Gabeta.
Say it right.
Yeah, say it right.
Say it right.
And it's huge, guys. Like it's huge. So David Abraham is one of those dudes. He was telling me when we were working on Kukulu. Everybody knows Thor, right?
Oh.
Right, the god of thunder.
Yeah.
And David comes to me one time and he says, Thor was an African concept first. And David is one of those guys who always say, this is an African concept first. So I was like, come on, man. Okay. But he was like, no. So he shows me that, I don't remember the country very well. I don't want to, give the wrong information. But I please, everybody, Google it. But it's in one of the African countries close by, I think Zambia or something. They did believe in a god who has an axe. For that could bring thunder from the sky, and we had to put that in Kukulu as well. We put an axe in Kukulu where she takes an axe, she holds it up, thunder comes, all her obstacles go down, and people always come to us and they say, oh, that's Thor, and I'm like, no, actually.
If you know your history.
It's one of those moments where you feel great about yourself, like, actually.
What you didn't know.
What you didn't know is Thor is African first. So,
it's a beautiful concept, man.
I think there's so much potential. Yeah.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. And we're running out of time. And before we even mess, crazy where the time goes. But tell us about Lomi, because recently...
Yeah, so Lomi is a very fun app. Me and my friend Beza Hailu got together one time. I was always thinking about it. He was always thinking about it, and he brought it up, and he was like, hey, why don't we make a dating app? And I was like, where were you this whole entire time? So, and he's like, so what should we do about it, or what is it going to be like? Another thing about me is I'm also a UX UI trainer. I give UX UI training. UX UI is you basically design apps in terms of architecture, not necessarily coding. But you go like, where does this person go to the next screen, and how do they manage, and how do they navigate, and all of that stuff. So I was like, I can build apps in that mindset, how to monetize them, how to do these things.
How to engage people and all
exactly. That. So I was like, we were talking about it, and we were like, Timkat, is Ethiopia's most, Ethiopia has a very conservative culture. And Timkat is one of those places where that conservative culture loosens up a little bit, right? And people come out, they see each other after the whole celebration, and if you like a girl, you pick up a Lomi, you throw at her, and if it hits her and she looks at you, and if she likes you, she'll pick up the Lomi, and in some areas she'll throw it into another guy. I hate to be that that guy. But, you know, that happens. And we were like, you know, this is, why don't we just convert that into an app? Why don't we give people a bunch of lomies to throw at each other? You know, we'll monetize the lomies, of course. We'll integrate, you know, payment systems. We've done that in Kukulu. And Kukulu used to sell kolo. People used to buy it on their airtime, you know, with their tele airtime.
Wow.
So we've managed to create that system. And I was like, we could create it here. So we decided to sell lomies, essentially. Where you get a kilo of lomies, you know, be careful with them. Be careful who you throw it at. But, you know, Lomi is a very straightforward app. You can find it on Google Store at the moment. But it will also be available on iOS in a week or so.
How does the algorithm now work? I mean, like, how does it, like, how would it match people?
Yeah, this is that's the tricky part. The best way to do it is there's a ranking system, right? You know, nature plays a huge part in these kind of, you know, systems and social experiences. Nature is a huge factor. So what generally every dating app does to make their matches very, very good is to provide, you know, a ranking system for people. You know, there are people who get a lot of views, who gets a lot of likes, and there are people who doesn't interact with the app much, or they don't necessarily invest in, you know, uploading a photo or a bio and everything, and they don't necessarily get a lot of engagement. So what we do is we kind of, you know, match people with, if you're active, we match you with someone active. If you're a little bit, you know, dormant, you might find a lot of dormant accounts because, you know, you have to be active to tell the algorithm that you're there, you're alive. Yeah.
Very interesting, ladies and gents. Lomi is here for the rescue, ladies and gents. 2014. If you plan on closing the door on a single life and, you know, find a partner, the man in the studio came up with a solution for you guys. He came in with a whole bunch of. Well, he should have brought some kilos of Lomi for us.
I should have. There was just no Lomi open. The stores open at this time.
But we're running out of time, Bereket, and I do want to ask you, like, in 1 minute, to all the young people listening and wanting to become an entrepreneur and get into this animation world, we have a few minutes left. What do you have to say?
First of all, have a dream. Like, have a clear vision of where you want to go. Get close to people. Network. I think that's the most crucial part. You need to network, know people, show people who you are. And then the hardware part, it's not easy. I gotta tell everybody there. It's not gonna be easy. It's not a fun trip.
It's gonna be uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's gonna be very, very uncomfortable.
Yes.
So these three things are gonna be right there. So, you know, go for it.
Go for it. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning. InSheger is your house anytime. You have any other apps as well, go ahead and make sure you join us. Ladies and gents, we do have to head out. Good, better, best. Never let it rest. To you, good is better, and your better is best. Have a beautiful Monday. We're out.